Hi, my name's Andy Wolman, and I'm an associate professor at the Graduate School of International and Area Studies at Hankuk University of Foreign Studies in Seoul, Korea. And I wanted to comment briefly on my article entitled Korea's Refugee Act, a Critical Evaluation Under International Law, which was recently published in Volume 6, Number 2 of the Journal of East Asia and International Law. So in July 2013, Korea's new Refugee Act entered into force. It's the first standalone refugee law in Korea, and this is an exciting time for the refugee law community here. Refugee rights advocates, refugee lawyers, UNHCR, and politicians from both major parties have worked hard for years to try to bring this law into being. It doesn't mean that the law that has resulted is perfect, however, and my article evaluates the new act according to Korea's obligations under international law, and in particular the Refugee Convention and applicable human rights treaties such as the International Covenant on Economic, Social, and Cultural Rights. And although I find that the Refugee Act is largely compliant with international law, there do remain some areas of concern, in particular relating to the possible use of detention, the establishment of a fast-track refugee determination procedure, the discretionary nature of certain provisions on economic and social rights and economic and social support, and finally the lack of explicit provisions relating to the treatment of recognized refugees and individuals with humanitarian status. Of course, much also will depend on how the Refugee Act is implemented in the coming years by the Ministry of Justice and how it's interpreted by the Korean court system. It will, for example, be interesting to see whether the entry into force of the Act coincides with an increase to the currently very low refugee recognition rate here in the Republic of Korea. At the time being, however, I think that a certain degree of optimism is warranted, that Korea does seem to be rapidly moving towards compliance with its international obligations, although there are certain areas which do remain problematic.